You're watching BCTV. We're all about Branford. You're watching BCTV, Branford Government Television, a service of Branford Community Television. This program is brought to you in part through the support of the town of Branford.
Okay, so it looks like I've got 7:02. I'd like to call this meeting of the RTM for February 10th to order. In accordance with Governor Lamont's Executive Order Number 7B for the protection of public health and safety during COVID-19 pandemic and response, the public meeting will be held remotely. Members of the public may attend the meeting via Zoom, remote, accessed by computer or by telephone as follows. All attendees must follow the town meeting rules as cited in Chapter A, 236 of the Code of the Town of Branford. Speak when recognized by the moderator and speak on the subject under discussion or debate. To announce your intent to communicate during the public comment, use the raise the hand feature or press 9 if attending via telephone, then 6 to unmute when recognized by the moderator. All those recognized to speak must state their name each time they speak. Personal attacks on any person will not be tolerated and will be cause for removal from the meeting without warning. Okay. The RTM will hold a Zoom meeting on Wednesday, February 10th, 2021 at 7 p.m. to consider and act upon the following matters. Before we go to
Mr. Moderator, this is Representative Brockett. Point of order.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Moderator, this is Representative Brockett. I'd like to add a resolution to the agenda. The resolution I would like
I
to
can't
add.
hear anybody.
Go ahead, Representative Flanagan here. Go ahead, Representative Brockett.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. The resolution, this is Representative Brockett. The resolution I would like to add to the agenda is as follows. Whereas we are duly elected members of the Branford R.T.M. and as such were elected by established government practice and process and agree that we are a nation of laws and as members of the Branford R.T.M. are recognized as leaders of our community. And whereas elected officials, we swore an oath to uphold and obey the Constitution of the United States of America. And whereas on January 6, 2021, through riotous actions, large numbers of American citizens invaded our nation's capital. In particular, the building that house our elected congressional members and host their passage of laws and certification of cast electoral ballots as a final step in our national election process in an effort to interrupt, stop, and potentially overturn those results and process and disenfranchise millions of voters. Now, therefore, we, the elected members of the Branford R.T.M., do wholeheartedly condemn these violent actions and rioting that amount to insurrection against our government and an attempt to overrule the will of the people of our nation, the United States of America. I would put that in the form of a motion to be added to the agenda. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Representative Flanagan here. Is there a second on the motion?
This is Representative Sullivan. I'll second the motion.
Okay, motion on the floor has been seconded. I'm going to have a roll call vote on this.
Mr. Moderator, is there discussion on this motion at this point?
The motion on the, yes, there is a Representative Flanagan. Sullivan, go right ahead. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Point of procedure, though, first, Moderator, please.
Representative Toohill, go ahead. Representative Flanagan here.
I mean, I think it's too early in the meeting to entertain what's before right now. I mean, Ray, you get to do the roll call first.
Find out who's here.
This is Representative Sullivan. I would actually agree that would make sense to do the roll call and then hear Representative Brockett's motion.
Representative Flanagan here. Well, we're going to do the roll call. We already heard Representative Brockett's motion already. So this will be a roll call, a vote of yes. You approve.
Please hang on. This is Representative Ingraham. What's being mentioned is we have not done a roll of the
Present.
members present yet. Any motion should come after that.
Okay. Representative Flanagan, I'll go along with that. So before we do the roll call on item 1, I'd like to welcome 2 new members to the RTM. Victoria Verderam, she will serve on the Administrative Services Committee, and Rich Arturo, who will serve on the Public Services Committee. Welcome aboard. Okay, item 1, roll call.
Okay. Representative Edelman.
Representative Edelman is here.
Representative Atro, please correct me if I did not pronounce that.
Yes, Atro, I'm here.
Thank you. Representative Alphone.
Representative Alphone, present.
Representative Anderson.
Representative Anderson is present.
Representative Black.
Representative Black, present.
Representative Brockett.
Representative Brockett, present.
Representative Conklin.
Representative Conklin is present.
Representative Everson.
He's just coming back in. So.
Okay.
My apologies. I am here. I've had numerous Zoom issues with the link. Thank you.
Thank you. Are you all set now? Yes. Okay. Representative Erlanger.
Representative Erlanger present.
Representative Flanagan.
Representative Flanagan here.
Representative Greenberg.
Representative Greenberg present.
Representative Haken.
Representative Haken is here.
Representative Healy.
Representative Healy is present.
Representative Henschel.
Representative Henschel is here.
Representative Hines.
Representative Hines is here.
Representative Ingraham.
Representative Ingraham, sir.
Representative Jackson.
Representative Jackson.
Representative Lake is present. Representative Lee. Representative Tree.
What's going on?
Yeah, I hear it. Is that me or?
What's happening?
Who are we waiting? Representative Tree?
Representative Tree.
Okay.
So Representative Tree is not here. Okay, Representative Riccio.
Representative Riccio, present.
Representative
Representative Sember is here.
Representative Shrestha.
Representative Shrestha is here.
Representative Sires.
Representative Sires present.
Representative Sumro.
Representative Sumro is here.
Representative Stepanik.
Representative Stepanik here.
Representative Sullivan.
This is Representative Sullivan here.
Representative Torelli.
Representative Torelli here.
Representative Toohill.
Representative Toohill is here.
Representative Verderami. Did I say that correctly?
Representative Verderam is here.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And Representative Wells.
Representative Wells is here.
Okay. Representative Tree is the only one not here. Is that correct? Okay, ex officio.
Representative, I'm sorry. This is Representative Everson. Representative Tree is on the meeting. I've seen him as one of the attendees.
Is he muted or? Oh, I see him too.
I just texted him to let him know that we can't hear him.
Okay, I see.
He's on.
He's on. Okay.
Okay. Representative Flanagan, is that the only one we're missing?
Yes, we're all here now. Ex officios, is First Selectman present? Selectman Dunbar?
Go get his phone.
Selectman Dunbar is present.
Town Clerk Arpin is present. And am I
Town
missing?
Clerk Arpin present.
Thank you. Am I missing anyone else? Okay, thank you. We're all set.
We have a quorum. I should also point out that the two members of the RTM have been sworn in also. Okay, Representative Brockett. This is Representative Flanagan.
Representative Flanagan, I make a motion to accept the previously read resolution to be added to the agenda.
All right, there's also been a second on that by Representative Sullivan. Is that correct?
Correct. Representative Sullivan seconds the motion.
Okay, so a yes vote would be to
Mr. Moderator, will there be discussion on the motion?
after we see if it passes or not. Okay.
Point of order, I would argue that some of the discussion could help make the case on to whether we should add this item to our agenda.
Well, I think we should vote on it to see how it goes if we even get that far, Representative Sullivan. So the motion on the floor by Representative Brockett and seconded by Representative Sullivan is to add this item to the agenda. This will be a roll call vote. A yes vote is for it. A no vote is against it. The clerk will call the roll call on this.
Can I make a comment, please? Can I make a comment? My hand.
No, you may not. No, you want. No, you may. No, you may not, Mr. Cook.
Okay, Representative Edelman.
Representative Edelman votes yes.
You know, why can't I make a comment?
Representative Atro.
My hand's up. My hand is up.
I'm going to vote no. And the reason I'm voting no is not that I don't support the wording in the motion.
What point of order? If we're not discussing the motion, we shouldn't be discussing the motion.
Just the no. This is already yes or no. Okay.
Okay, so Representative Atro, that's a no vote, correct?
Yeah, yes, it's a no vote.
Okay, Representative Alphone.
Representative Alphone, no.
Representative Anderson.
Representative Anderson votes no.
Representative Black.
Representative Black votes no.
Representative Brockett.
Representative Brockett votes yes.
Representative Conklin.
Representative Conklin votes no.
Representative Everson.
Representative Everson votes yes.
Representative Erlanger.
Representative Erlanger votes yes.
Representative Greenberg.
Representative Greenberg votes no.
Representative Haken.
Representative Haken votes yes.
Why has my video been turned off? Why has my video been turned off? Why has my video been turned off?
Representative Lynch, please continue with the roll call.
Okay, Representative Healy.
Representative Healy votes no.
Why has my video been turned off? Can I ask?
Representative Hinkle.
Why has my video been turned? Why has my video been turned off?
Representative Henschel.
Why has my video been turned off? Why has my video been turned off?
Representative Henschel votes yes.
Thank you.
Why is my video?
Representative Hines.
Representative Hines votes no.
Representative Ingraham.
Why has my video been turned off?
Representative Ingraham votes no. And note that Representative Freed is on the phone now.
Why has my video been turned off?
Mr. Cook, you're out of order. Continue, please.
I want to know why my
It's very difficult for me to get the votes correctly with all of the interruptions.
turned off. Why has my video been turned off? Why?
This is Town Clerk Arpin, point of order. I cite section 1-232 of the Connecticut State Statute regarding conducts of. Please refrain from commenting during the roll call. Thank you.
Wait a minute. What's my conduct? Why did you shut off my video?
Hey, Mr. Cook, you're out of order.
No, I'm not. I'd like to know why did you shut off my video?
Mr. Cook, if you continue, we're going to have you removed.
Yeah, you know that.
All right, let's go.
Why did you shut off my video?
Sorry, Tom.
Okay.
I want to know why you turned off my.
Okay, Representative Jackson.
Mr. Cook has been removed to the waiting room till after the call.
Votes yes. Can you shut off this?
Yes, just everybody mute. It's not talking.
Okay, last vote I have is Representative Jackson, a yes vote. Is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you. Representative Leach votes yes. Representative Preet.
Representative Preet votes no.
Representative Riccio.
Representative Riccio votes no.
Representative Sember.
Representative Sember votes yes.
Representative Shrestha.
Representative Shrestha votes yes.
Representative Sires.
Representative Sires votes no.
Representative Sumro.
Representative Sumro, yes.
Representative Stepanek.
Representative Stepanek votes no.
Representative Sullivan.
This is Representative Sullivan voting yes in favor of adding the resolution to our agenda.
Representative Torelli.
Representative Torelli votes yes.
Representative Toohill.
Toohill votes no.
Representative Verderam.
Representative Verderam votes no.
And Representative Wells.
Representative Wells votes no.
Okay. I need someone to double check this, but I'm just going to take a second to make sure this is right. 1, 2. We have 12 yes votes and 16 no votes, but that doesn't add up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
Missing one.
6, 7.
13 to 16. Representative Toohill. 13. It failed.
Thank you.
Mr. Moderator, could I ask a point of order? Whoever is 203-481-9775, if that could be muted so we don't have that echo, it would be.
Tracy, Lisa Arpin, I just did that. Thank you.
Representative Emerson. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay, the motion fails to add this item to the call. Moving on to item 2, approval of the minutes of the previous meetings. Is there a motion on the floor for approval of the last two meetings? I believe that would have been December and January.
Representative Torelli approved them. I vote yes for them.
Representative Ingraham seconds.
Any discussion on the approving of the minutes? Hearing none, the minutes are approved without variance. Item number 3, reception of communications reports of committees and citizens petitions. Okay. I have a letter here from Robert Costanzo. Dear Branford R.T.M, I respectfully request that any change to RTM Rule A236-1-4 regarding number of citizens needed on a petition to the RTM be very carefully discussed before action. I disagree with any change that would change the number of citizens or signatures on a petition to the RTM from 50 to 250, a 400% increase. I believe the change would be burdensome at the very least and a discouragement to many citizens with legitimate concerns to be considered by our elected officials. The collecting of signatures on a matter that concerns and issues important to 50 Branford citizens should be preserved as is. All signatures on the petition to the RTM are from voting citizens that you elected as your voice. I see no reason to make the change other than to silence the concerns of your constituents or some tough issues. I do understand that considering the issues from petitioners may be time-consuming and hard work, which is inherited to the position of the RTM members who chose to serve. This item will be addressed later in the call, and it'll be no action required on this because it's going to make the vote is going to be to take no action. I have another letter from Mr. Robert Costanzo also. Dear RTM, Branford R.T.M, I respectfully request that you consider adding to the remote meeting requirements a small but important change. Please state for the record the name of the individual or individuals who are hosts of the Zoom meeting at the start of each meeting. It is important for the public to know whom to address if there's a problem or concern with actively joining on a remote meeting. I hope with the dawn of the COVID-19 vaccine, we will be able to return to in-person meetings, but until that time, this request would be helpful to the public. Additionally, your affirmative action on this request will act as a model for the other towns, boards, and commission meetings. Thank you for your consideration. To address the letter here, I would just say if whoever comes on the various meetings, subcommittee meetings, RTM and so forth, if they go down to the bottom of the Zoom thing and click on where it says participant, it will indicate who is the host of the remote meetings. So no action is required on this.
I'd like to speak to the correspondence, please.
No, you may not. You can speak under other business.
No,
that's it.
This is an agenda item.
This is
who's speaking
under other business, and you state your name. You're not speaking this. You can speak to it under other business. I have a letter here from James Cosgrove. Dear moderator, I respectfully request that the RTM consider and approve.
You always let us speak to agenda items. You always.
Mr. Cook, last time, I'm not going to warn you. I respectfully request that the RTM consider and approve an amendment.
This is some third world country. It really is.
That's it. I respectfully request that the RTM consider and approve an amendment to Chapter 223, Vehicles and Traffic of the Town Code. The purpose is to add language granting the Board of Selectmen the authority to adopt rules and regulations regarding the use and operations of any municipal parking lot. I look forward to the opportunity to present this to the members, additional information and suggested language. I will send this to the Rules and Ordinance Committee. I have a letter here also from the town engineer regarding acceptance of Cosgrove Court as a town road. Dear Moderator Flanagan, please consider and approve the acceptance of Cosgrove Court as a town road. The development is complete and the developer has now presented the town with a record map and deed for the conveyance to take place. I also ask you to take action to accept Cosgrove Court as shown on the closed map to the town. This will be sent to the Administrative Services Committee. I have a letter here from Mr. Wayne Cook that was sent to Governor Lamont because it was sent to Governor Lamont and not to the RTM or the moderator. There is no action on this item. I have another letter from Mr. Wayne Cook addressed to the RTM because of the unfair, political, partisan, and dishonest manner in which Representative Peter Black conducts the Ways and Means and Rules and Ordinance Committees. I ask that all current citizens' petitions and letters be referred to another committee for study and consideration. In addition, to assure a fair and impartial process for the future citizens' petitions and other matters, it is formally asked that the majority party leadership that Mr. Black be removed from both the chair of both committees. My ruling on this is Mr. Black is still the chair of both committees of Ways and Means and Rules and Ordinance, and no action will be taken on this. I have another letter here from Mr. Wayne Cook. Dear Branford R.T.M, please be advised that in light of the RTM taking certain actions with no formal direction or follow-up procedures in place for issues raised by citizens, petitions, and letters, the following items require continuing monitoring and progress reports to both the RTM and the community. It is asked that the RTM place the above items on the agenda for continuing monitoring and monthly progress until the report is complete. These are the items that both the subcommittees spent numerous hours on and action on between the petitions and the letters, in some cases taking no action, in some cases voting to send this to the selectmen or the board of selectmen. Therefore, there is no need for the RTM to resurface these items all over again. So there'll be no action on this also. I have a letter here also from Mr. Wayne Cook. At your previous meeting, a dishonest and underhanded action was committed by Representative Peter Black, Representative Ray Ingraham, and other prematurely moved the question to prevent any discussion regarding conspiracy and fraud by town officials during the Costco Inland Wetlands hearing, as well as the first selectman continuing lying about his office and conduct. This excuse was given from the fraud and abuse of the citizen petition process, and the First Amendment was said to be resolved because this matter is in litigation. Both the moderator and the RTM are reminded that the first selectman's promise for an investigation into this process surrounding Costco Inlet application in 2016 was made 3 years before the litigation was filed. Furthermore, you are also being committed about that several years ago when a citizen filed a federal lawsuit for similar civil rights violations committed by the town. In the midst of the litigation, the RTM had no problem discussing this. It is asked that the RTM, in keeping with the duty to the citizens of Branford, return Costco investigation petition to the agenda. As Representative Edelman so clearly stated some months back, this item is in the litigation and therefore is not an item that the RTM should be dealing with at this time. Let's see, we have another letter from Mr. Wayne Cook. It is asked that the attached letter sent to Governor Mark regarding First Selectman Costco and Representative Ingraham abuse of the Zoom technology to prevent citizens from presenting the truth about Town Hall be read aloud at the committee to hear. As a lifelong Branford citizen, I am both embarrassed and disgusted that our public officials have resorted to such underhanded measures to cover up the facts about corruption, and that the RTM as a moderator are also allowing them to do so. I have another letter here, and I believe this is the last one, from Mr. Wayne Cook also. It is asked that the letter be read into the record and sent to the appropriate committee for establishment of rules that encourage, not censor and mute a citizen's right to speak at RTM meetings. This rule is clearly stated at the beginning of the RTM that any personal attacks on persons will not be tolerated and will be cause for removal from the meeting without warning. Therefore, no action is to be taken on this item. And I believe, the clerk, do you have any other correspondence at this point? This is Representative Flanagan. Representative Leach. You're muted. Representative Leach, you're muted. You have any other correspondence? No?
No, I do not.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to item 4, to consider and if appropriate, approve an amendment to Chapter A 236-4C, Rule 4.3, Section 4. Representative Black.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. This Representative Black, Chairman of the Rules and Ordinance Committee. We met January 19th. All members were present. We came up with language which has been distributed to the members to add this rule. The language is as follows. Whenever, by a majority vote of the RTM members present at a meeting, a matter is referred to the town of Branford or outside entity, it shall be the responsibility of the RTM moderator or his or her designee to communicate in writing to the town of Branford or outside entity, notifying them of the action taken by the RTM. Such notification will be submitted within 3 business days of the action taken by the RTM. That language was approved and recommended by the full committee unanimously, so I put that in the form of a motion to amend our rules.
Okay, the motion on the floor to amend our rules, and this is a procedural item for the RTM and only the RTM. Is there any discussion from members of the RTM?
Mr. Moderator, this is Representative Brockett.
Senator Brockett, go ahead. Representative Flanagan.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Representative Brockett here. Yeah, this was a collaborative effect with the majority leader, and I just want to reach out and thank Mr. Ingraham for his cooperation in resolving this issue so that the appropriate correspondence is sent to the appropriate agency anytime somebody refers this from the RTM. So thank you again.
Okay, Representative Flanagan here. Any other discussion from members of the RTM? Hearing none, is there any no votes? Is there any no votes? Any abstentions? Hearing none, this item passes. Item number 5, to consider it appropriate, create a blight ordinance for the town of Branford. Representative Black.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Representative Black. We did not hear this. Well, actually, we did hear a report on this item last committee, but it is not ready yet and we do not have a draft ordinance at this point ready for the committee to act on. We do expect that to happen within the next month. Representatives Henschel, Toohill, and Edelman are working on a draft to propose to the committee. And so we may take more action next month. So at this point, the committee recommended that we re-refer, and I put that in the form of a motion.
Okay, motion on the floor. That it was Representative Flanagan here. Representative Black, was that unanimous on the committee?
It was.
Okay. All right, there's a motion on the floor to re-refer this item. Is there any discussion from members of the RTM? If not, is there any discussion from members of the public? Hearing none, is there any no votes to re-refer this item? Is there any no votes to re-refer this item? Is there any abstentions? This item is re-referred. Item number 6, to consider and if appropriate, create an ordinance pertaining to unused capital funds. Representative Black.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Representative Black speaking. We did not hear this item, so I make a motion to re-refer this item and ask for a second.
This is Representative Sullivan. I will second that motion.
Motion on the floor by Representative Black, seconded by Representative Sullivan to re-refer this item. Is there any discussion from members of the RTM? Is there any discussion from members of the public? Hearing none, is there no vote? Is there any no votes? Is there any no votes? Is there any abstentions? This item is re-referred. Item number 7, to review and if appropriate, approve amendment to RTM Rule A 236-1K4 to change the number of citizen signatures on a petition to the RTM from 50 to 250. Representative Black.
Thank you. This Representative Black. We met again on January 19th at a special meeting. We did discuss this item briefly. The committee unanimously voted that we should take no action on that, so I put that in the form of a motion. What this would mean is that the requirement remains 50.
Okay, Representative Flanagan here. There's a motion on the floor to take no action on this, and it came out of committee unanimously. Is there any discussion from members of the RTM?
Mr. Moderator, this is Representative Sullivan.
Representative Flanagan, go ahead. Representative Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Just a added point of clarification. I believe that the committee recommendation to take no action would also remove this item from our agenda. Representative Black can call me wrong if I'm saying that incorrectly, but I believe that would be part of the action.
This Representative Black, my response is I hope so. We've got enough on our agenda now. But, you know,
Representative Ingraham, it's mine, yes, I don't want it back on.
Sullivan. Okay. Is there any other further discussion from members of the RTM? If not, is there any discussion from members of the public? Hearing none. Is there any no votes? Is there any no votes? Is there any abstentions? Okay, this item is therefore removed from the call. Item number 8, to consider and if appropriate, approve an amendment to RTM Rule A 236-1 or Clerk A 236-2. Representative Black.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Again, we heard this item on January 19th. There's language that's been distributed to the full RTM. The committee did vote unanimously in favor of that language. Since that time, Representative Toohill has brought to my attention that there may be some inconsistencies with the Freedom of Information Act. And so the committee motion is to approve the language as it is. My motion personally is to re-refer. I don't really want to get into doing committee work on the floor here, but get the language down right, and I'll look for a second to that motion.
This is Representative Brockett. I'll second that motion.
Seconded by Representative Brockett. There's a motion on the floor by Representative Black to re-refer this item, and it's been seconded by Representative Brockett. Is there any discussion from members of the RTM?
This is Representative Edelman. After passing unanimously, I would just like to thank Representative Toohill for pointing out any discrepancy that may exist, and appreciate his paying attention to the motion, to the proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Edelman. This is Representative Toohill. Thank you.
Hey, Representative Flanagan again. Any further discussion from members of the RTM? Again, this is a procedural item for the RTM only. And is there any no votes? Is there any no votes? Is there any abstentions? Hearing none, this item is re-referred. Item number 9, letters and petitions. R&O, letter, request to review the Code of Ethics. Representative Black.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Representative Black speaking. We did not discuss the Code of Ethics. It was not on our agenda as the Ethics Committee had not yet met, and we were waiting to hear back from them. And so at this point, I put a motion on the floor to re-refer and ask for a second to that.
This is Henschel. I'll second that.
Okay, Representative Flanagan here. There's a motion on the floor by Representative Black, seconded by Representative Henschel to re-refer this item. Is there any discussion from members of the RTM?
To clarify, this is for the Code of Ethics only, not for the POCD.
Correct. And is there any discussion from members of the RTM? Is there any discussion from the public? Hearing none. Is there any no votes? Is there any no votes? Is there any abstentions? This item is re-referred. Next item is R&O, letter examination of the POCD process. Representative Black.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. We did hear a presentation from Mr. Cook on this item. The committee decided that this was not something within our purview. State statute section 8-23 puts this squarely within the Planning Commission, which in Branford's case is Planning and Zoning. The committee voted unanimously to take no action on this item, so I put that in the form of a motion.
Representative Flanagan here. There's a motion by Representative Black to take no further action on this item, which means basically if it passes, it will be removed from the call. Is there any discussion from members of the RTM? Is there any discussion from members of the public? Hearing none? Is there any no votes? Is there any no votes? Is there any abstentions? Therefore, this item is removed from the call. Item number 10, to consider and if appropriate, approve the following budget transfer for the tax collector and to fund a tax associate position for the remainder of fiscal 2021. From contingency $21,561 to regular wages and salaries $2,370 to overtime $15,000 to accrued payroll $191 to consulting services $4,000. This was a joint meeting between administrative services and Ways and Means. So we'll go with the administrative services first. Representative Alphone.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. And yes, as you said, Admin Services and Ways and Means met jointly on February 3rd to hear this item. The tax collector's office has suffered from multiple retirements over the last few years, as well as some turnover in recent months. This transfer will fund overtime required to keep that department running, with the current staff working longer than normal hours. It will also continue to fund a consultant to help get the tax department running smoothly again. The third part of this transfer will allow the tax department to add an additional staff member as well, bringing staffing levels back up to the number of employees we had in the department in 2010. This did pass in committee with a 6-1 vote. I don't know if Peter wants to add anything to that, but I know Representative Sires was the one dissenting vote, and I think she wants to make a minority report. So just allow that opportunity as well.
Yeah, this is Representative Black. We heard this item too, and the vote was 4 in favor with 1 abstention, who was me. And I know Selectman Cosgrove is here. Just to be clear, through you, Mr. Moderator, if I could ask the first selectman or the finance director, we'll have 1.5 more positions than we had in 2010 because we'd reduced 1 position to half and we're adding 1 full-time position. Is that correct? Jamie, are you on?
Representative Flanagan, Selectman Cosgrove, you want to comment on that? Guess it's not on.
Hello.
There he is. There he is.
Sorry about that. Wait a second on mute. So to answer your question, right now that half position, as you know, is split between the finance department and the tax office. It goes down to provide help. It was the primary. Usually it's down there during the collection period or to cover for a vacation period. We don't anticipate that having to send that individual down there as much with the full-time position. So it's restoring the level of the staffing to 3 full-time employees. However, if there was a need, that position is certainly that's currently in the finance, primarily in the finance department, could actually spend more time. They have a lot of work that needs to be done in the finance department to assist with that, but still has the experience, knowledge, and the ability to go and lend support if needed. but ideally we would like to get into a position where the 3 full-time positions are carrying the weight of the department, as well as the tax collector.
Okay, so I don't know if Jim Finch is on this call, this Representative Blackien. Through you, Mr. Moderator, again, we're essentially adding a position more than we had in 2010 to the Finance Department, or at least half a position. Thank you. Is that correct?
I don't know if Jim's on. If he's on, he is certainly after that. But this is Selectman Jamie Cosgrove. My understanding, they had an opportunity in 2010. There was a retirement within that department as well. So I think it was an opportunity to, when they were filling a position, to have a halftime cover that down in the tax. So it was still, the position is still located up in the finance department. So I guess to answer your question, really, if you're asking if there's going to be a now 1.5 full-time position above what they had in 2010, I would say no. They're restoring back to the same level as 2010, and that would be with both departments.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Selectman, Mr. Representative Black. So again, we heard this. The motion was from the committee is to approve. That was 4 in favor and 1 abstention.
Representative Flanagan here. Representative Sires, would you like to make a minority report?
I would. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Moderator, and thank you, Chairman Alphone. Just bear with me on 1 second here. Having a little connection problems. I've done a lot of research in the tax department for several months now, and I do take the discussions to approve funding for town departments very seriously. And they should be based on the facts such as expenditures, staffing needs, operations, and the allocation of the funding. I think the facts are important for every department, but most important for the tax department, because this is a very important revenue generating department for our town. In fiscal year 2020, as you may know, I had concerns about the frequent asking for funding for the tax department. So I did some more reviewing of the tax department from 2018 to current date. And the request for additional funding for associated tasks were not clearly defined in correlations to the funds that were asked. And I was also never fully satisfied with the responses to my questions. Just some of the questions I asked in committee were, what are the day-to-day operations of the tax department? Who is responsible for the variety of tasks in the department? What benchmarks were they given to perform the tasks? And as of the overtime ask continues, who is receiving the overtime? What were some of the performances expected for the overtime? And what were the outcomes for the pre-approved overtime from the last budget? Also learning that there were a lot of rejections from a lockbox, which originally was to free up a lot of time. What percentage of these rejections translated into the need for more overtime and positions created? I also would have liked to know the collection rate in percentage and dollar amounts. How does the collection rate benchmark other years? And are our current collections sufficient to continue the operations of the town? What are the targets set by the department head? And what is an anticipated stability to reach the targets should funding be continued to be approved? Realizing since 2018 till date, there's been approximately $100,000 in additional funds for staffing, operations, consultants, and overtime to the tax department. I do realize it's a busy department. It does a lot of tasks other than just sending out the bills and collecting twice a year. You know, they do a lot of change in ownership, land transfers, bankruptcy, collecting the sewer tax, processing rejected payments and more. And they do have the staff of the chief operating officer, the head of the tax department with the assistant collector. There's also been a turnover of staff, but there is also consultants in the office and help from the assistant finance director. We've learned through committee meeting last week that the tax collector and the assistant tax collector work from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. So that's two people working 60 hours a week. That's a lot of work, a lot of overtime. And what is and what is not getting done in the amount of time and sweat equity put into that department. So I feel the department, inherently a department of this importance to the town, should have a contingency plan built in, and the plan should cover things such as staff turnover, short-term collection rates that are a problem. And it seems to me that the plan has been to ask for funding more regularly, and learning the process, how to operate it, is a month-to-month basis or as we're going along. So I think after evaluating the department, it's the cumulative ask of the funding without defined leadership benchmarks for performance that I'm more objecting to. And until there are more benchmarks and performance evaluations and objective financial facts, I'm not sure whether adding positions and funding is going to seemingly solve the problems of the department. And I thank you for your time.
Flanagan here. Is there any other discussion from members of the RTM?
Representative Edelman, Mr. Moderator.
Go ahead, Representative Edelman.
So during committee, the relevant town officials that spoke, that are well apprised of the workings of the tax office, all came to committee in strong support of this resolution. Our tax collector came into a tax office when she was first elected that was gutted of experience. Coupled with the pandemic, we have a tax collector that's at the front counter answering phones and stuffing envelopes. So the metrics that my fellow representative is seeking are not apples to apples, because those metrics, there's not the personnel to perform the duties as they should be done in the tax office. The first selectman came to this meeting, the finance director came to committee. Those with inner workings of the budget and of the tax collector's office have all been strongly in favor of this proposal. And I don't think that there's a department that has had to rely on their leader to do more with less than the tax collector's office has had to do. And I would strongly, strongly support the recommendation as the whole town has gotten behind this resolution. So thank you.
Representative Flanagan here. Any other members of the RTM wishing to speak to this?
Yes.
Mr. Moderator, Kevin Healy.
Representative Healy, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Moderator. I'd like to just make a couple of points in clarification on some of these things. Just a recap of back in November when the department came to us looking for $49,000. Again, recall that we had some extra funds in salary, so we had knocked that down to the $39,000, of which we found out to, as of today, $28,000 of the $39,000 was utilized. So the account for overtime actually still has $11,000 in it and some. That $28,000 was utilized over 30 weeks. They're now looking for, again, another $15,000. To their added 11 is $26,000. So from $28,000 utilized over 30 weeks, they're now looking for $26,000 in overtime for the remaining 22 weeks. 8 weeks less. I too am frustrated with this, but again, I am fully in support of funding the extra position and helping out this department. But I too also would like to know where these funds and how these funds are going to be utilized. I understand that the department has been gutted somewhat. But after 2 years, when do we start to say enough is enough? Who is learning what? Apparently, COVID has hit the department, and they're not getting their full one-on-one time with the consultants. That's also something I'm a little confused on, and how the education of the consultants is not transferring over to the people in the tax department. I have a son who's taken physics, advanced math, and even Arabic since March, online, as of millions of kids around the world learning online. But yet, for some reason, COVID is an issue for the educational experience of our tax department. That being said, if we break down some of the hours, Carolyn was a little inaccurate before, because whereas we have Catherine, who is the floating, she's actually put in 117 hours in 13 weeks. And that, yes, that is the number that has given to me from your department in 13 weeks. So Catherine is putting in 9 hours a week extra in overtime. Bernadette has put in 457 hours in 30 weeks. She's doing 15 extra hours a week. So on top of her base of 35, yes, she's putting in 50 hours a week. Carolyn was correct, though. That record is smashed by our own tax collector. This poor individual apparently is coming in many mornings by 6:30 in the morning, leaving at 6 at night, and working weekends. Bobby apparently is putting in almost as many hours as 2 tax associates at the 35 hours a week. So she's putting in, again, almost 70 hours a week then apparently herself. Now, I know there's whispers that that is far from the truth, but that being aside, obviously the department has a lot of struggles, a lot of stress. But at this point right now, again, I'm in favor of supporting the department. I ask my others to do so. But however, I implore our colleagues across the aisle and the table to please put our town above politics, above the party, and come to us with a rational, viable answer to these problems, because a change in November is due. Thank you for your time.
Representative Flanagan here. Anyone else from the RTM wishing to speak?
Yeah, I like to. I like to say something. With all these hours and everything, and I can understand COVID and everything.
Representative Arturo, you have to state your name.
Yeah, Representative Atro. Issue I have is, when is the tax collector going to come up to speed where she is certified and we don't have to get into consultants and she can do the proper training to her staff? And I know she's on the call and maybe she can answer that question. I see her at the meeting, but when is she going to get certified? I can understand this last year, but this is not her first year. She's going into her 4th year as tax collector. At this point in time, she should know the job, and we shouldn't have to hire consultants to come in there and straighten it out. And also, if you're running a department, you've got to look the ways to run it efficiently. It sounds like when I hear people working those hours, and I'll tell you what, anybody who's working that many hours, they're not productive. Because after you work so many hours, so many days, working 8 hours is working like 4 hours because you don't have the energy or the mind to be able to do it. So I questioned the number of hours she has to put in. You have to put that many hours in. There's not quality hours because it's too much work for one person to put that many hours in. So if nobody objects, the tax collector's there to address when are you going to get certified and what are your plans to straighten out that office and organize so we don't have to keep bringing in consultants into that office. I'm going to support the money aspect. I'm going to support the motion because I think it's important that we support getting money addressed, because we could just say we're not going to give the money and then let her fail even more than she is failing now. It's obviously failing. Some of the reason why she's failing is because of COVID, and I can understand that. But I think it's long before COVID that this thing blew up. So maybe she could comment on that or not. I don't know if it's appropriate she did. I'll leave it up to you, Mr. Moderator.
Representative Flanagan here, would the tax collector like to make any comments to that?
Tax Collector Gil Brooks, yes, I would very much like to address all of that as much as I can, depending on how long you all are willing to listen to me. Representative Atro, I do have a little bit of a problem with the word fail, but I will explain why. Stay with me for a minute. When the former tax collector came on board, she had an assistant that had been in that department for 10, 15 years. Her sewer assessment clerk had been there for 10, 15 years. So the new tax collector coming in had a bench deep in experience in town hall and experience in other departments in the building. So when I came in with that same deep bench. But that deep bench got injured, retired. So if I have a strong base under me, I would have been maybe up to speed by now. And if I didn't know something, my assistant would know. But I don't have that situation now because the longtime assistant left two years into my start, and the seasoned sewer assessment clerk retired 10 months into me going. 1 week after the sewer assessment clerk retired, the assistant tax collector went out on injury. She was gone 12 weeks. I was the only person in the department, me, by myself, until the powers that be requested that Joanne Cleary come back and give us a hand. And our shared person was able to come down when she could, but people have to recognize the busy time in the tax office is also the busy time in finance. So we didn't have Taisha all the time. One other thing I want to point out, people aren't taking jobs and working and staying in them 10 or 15 years anymore. I've got 2 people under me, one of which has been there a few weeks, the other of which has been there 2 years. They've got young families. Did they decide to go someplace else and make more money in a year? That experience goes out the door and you have to start all over again. The tax department is at risk of me not being back come mid-November. And then the new tax collector that comes in is going to have to start all over. I have not been able to get up to speed, as you say, or that I'm failing because I haven't had a complete full staff of support since the start. We've run into roadblocks all over the place. The long-term sewer assessment clerk retired with a month's notice. So now I'm supposed to learn sewer assessment because she's retiring. She took 2 weeks of that off. I had 2 weeks to learn it before she left. And then 1 week later, the assistant tax collector went out on injury for 12 weeks. When was I supposed to learn it? I was trying to learn my job, the assistant tax collector's job, and the sewer assessment clerk's job, because the tax collector is supposed to know all of them. And not only know my own, the admin side of my job, nobody else can do that. But the other 2 positions can share some of their tasks that only the assistant can do, or tasks that only the tax collector can do. But if I got to work the window or answer the phones because people aren't there, or the new people that are coming on are getting trained just like I am right now, I am the most experienced person in the department. Because it takes time to learn this. And no, sir, I can be certified next month and I'm not going to know the job. This takes years to understand. There are statutes and rules and everything that has to be learned, not to mention Branford is a senior heavy town. When you throw something like an executive order with deferral payments at them, they don't want to read about it in a press release. They don't want to read about it in a legal notice. They want to call and talk to somebody. And who do they want to talk to? Me. So I got to answer all of those calls, call all of those seniors back who don't understand what's going on with this, what's going on with that. I'm not saying that wasn't the problem before, but there is an entrance ramp to this. You're saying I've been here almost 4 years now and I'm not up to speed. I can't even get up all the way up the entrance ramp on the admin stuff. My base left. If you had a staff in the assessor's office of 4 or 5 people that have been there 20 years and 2 of them retire at the same time, you don't think the remaining people might have a little trouble with somebody coming and getting up to speed when they've been there 20, 30 years? Not to mention, they've worked in other departments that are connected to the tax office. So they had a little bit of knowledge about what goes on in the assessor's office. They had a little knowledge what goes on in finance. So when they came to tax, they had a little bit more information. I'm getting people green off the street. I'm green off the street. All I could run on was courtesy and respect, which I have fixed. Because it's my knowledge that the tax office had a horrible, horrible reputation. So at least that part is fixed. Even if we don't know everything, we treat everybody nice. And now we're getting up to speed. Our newest hire is fantastic. She will be taking CCMC1 come March. My assistant tax collector will be taking CCMC3 come March. I have finished all 4 of my courses. I only have to sit for the state exam to be certified. I passed the last class at the end of November. I could have taken the exam in December, but the tax office was busy. I didn't want to take time off to study for the exam, leaving the office in a lurch to possibly fail it after I had to take class 2 nights a week online instead of 1 day a week after working an X number of hour day. For anybody out there, I never said I worked 6 to 8 every single day. I got a life too. I have an autistic son. I have things that I have to do. But trust me, my behind is there. You ride by there on any Saturday, you will see my car. So anybody talking about, we hear whispers that it's not true. Okay, whatever. I'm not going down to those numbers. I'm busting my behind. And Bernadette is busting her behind. And all we're asking for is some help. Now, this is the office that brings in the most money, but yet we're seen to be, I don't know how this works because I'm new at this, but we seem to be getting, getting nickeled and dimed for everything we're trying to do. And we're the ones bringing in all your money. I don't get paid overtime for those hours I put in. And why do I put in all those hours? I put in all those hours because I'm trying to learn it in a quiet time when the phone isn't ringing and not people at the window when I'm trying to focus. And as far as why are we not utilizing the consultant properly, she can't sit with us and focus on what we have to focus on when the phone is ringing and there's people at the window and you only got one person working on the window. From what month? Let me get it right. From the time the assistant tax collector retired, which was the end of February of last year, until our new hire, who didn't work out, came in August, technically, that office was being run by only 2 people, myself and my assistant, because the consultant can't work the window. The consultant wasn't supposed to be answering any phones. But what the consultant did do, 2 weeks after she got there, everybody had to go home because of COVID. Everybody was working remote. Everybody was working remote because of COVID. When they came back at the end of May, we had to get ready for June bills. What our consultant, the most precious thing our consultant has done for us is she is the one that walked us through the lockbox implementation. We all, none of us had any experience with it at all. So she got us through that. But now we're so busy. I mean, we're busy. We have to be at the window. We have to answer the phones. We can't have quiet time with her to focus on what she's trying to train us on. And we've decided now if she's going to do that, we're going to go in a completely different room where the phone isn't ringing and the people aren't at the window, but both Bernadette and I cannot be away from the office at the same time because we can't leave the one brand new person by herself, answer the phones and work the window and do the admin work. I love this job. And if the Democrats want to put me back up, amen. If they decide not to put me back up, then I can do about that. If they decide to hire, I run against somebody else and I lose, that's fine. But I just want to mention, this is not for me. This is for the future of Branford. You have to recognize that you are at the risk of losing your head person every 2 years. So if your bench isn't deep, if your bench's roots aren't deep, if your bench isn't solid, you're going to go through this you could possibly face this every 2 years. That's not just the tax office. Think about it. People come, they work a job. If they don't, I would imagine once upon a time, the majority of people that worked in town hall also lived in Branford. That's not so much the truth anymore. Somebody lives someplace else. They get a job that they don't have to drive as far and they make more money. Why are they going to stay here? So you're going to get that turnover. People aren't staying in jobs 10, 15 years anymore. That's not how it is anymore. The millennials don't do that. If you're bringing in people younger than me, they're not going to be staying like that. And if they don't live in Branford, if they can get their credentials, they can get their training and then go someplace else, why wouldn't they? The only people that have to be here are the elected officials. So I'm just saying, you got to realize Branford is a senior heavy town. They want answers. They don't always understand. I'm trying to be customer service proper. I want to treat them the way I would want my 88-year-old father treated if he called someplace, not just brush him off, not just give him half an answer. There's a whole lot of little texturized things don't necessarily get written down in dollars and cents that I think a lot of you are missing or don't appreciate. I am busting my behind. I love this job. I want to learn it. I want to do well at it. I don't do stuff halfway. That's not who I am. But I also need a deep bench of experienced, seasoned staff to support me so that I can go sit in my office and do all the admin work without having to worry about what's going on the floor. If they're going to come in every 2 minutes asking me questions, I can't get anything done in the office. But when the last tax collector was here, she had a season. She didn't need, once when somebody retired, he didn't need to fill that last position because her people were seasoned. 2 years does not a sauce make. 4 years does not make a sauce make. And certification is not the same thing as qualification. Just because you're certified doesn't mean you're going to know everything about this job. There are too many things that are seasonal and too many things that only come up once in a while. It's like handing somebody a box of jigsaw puzzle pieces with no picture on the box if you don't have somebody to train you. And my former assistant tax collector, he didn't know a whole lot. Either she really didn't know a whole lot or she pretended not to know a whole lot. But I have been busted at trying to learn this. We are not fooling around in that department. We are pleasant and we get along. So people walk by and see us laughing and enjoying one another. We have to, but we are busting it. And I will say, I take offense to the failure remark. You ask Catherine, you ask Jamie, you ask Jim, you ask anybody in there. Who's the first car there when they pull up? Mine. Who's the last car when they leave? Mine and Bernadette. And I'm in on Saturdays and Sundays sometimes, and do not tell my father I'm there on Sunday. But I take offense to the failure remark. I'm done. I'm sorry. I'm off my soapbox now. If anybody has any questions.
Mr. Moderator, this is Mr. Rod Moderator, this is Representative Riccio.
Let's go ahead.
Ms. Gilbrooks, thank you for coming tonight and providing all of us your comments. I just want to make a couple of comments, and I'm not sure really how I'm going to vote on this tonight. I've been on this body 10 years. I've seen a lot of department heads leave. I've seen heads of the police departments retire. I've seen the head of the fire department retire, public works, engineering, people that have been here for many, many years. In the transition, I'm sure was bumpy with a new boss heading up that department, but I didn't see the thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars that we had to spend on consultants. And that is, I think, is a concern of many of us, not only on this body, but in other departments like the Board of Finance and perhaps some other departments in town. So that's my concern. And, I'm going to ask a question, but you don't have to answer this. It's kind of like why did you apply for this job if, you said you're green? One of the things that you said was you're green. Well, if you're green, why did you apply for this? Because you were going to be faced with changes and transitions. And so I don't know how I'm going to vote on this yet. I'm really weighing it. But I also want to make a comment about one other thing that you said. And I hope I say it properly. You said our money. Not our money. It's people's money. The citizens' money.
I'm the people. I pay taxes too.
But I'm just saying it's not, it made it sound as if it's this body's money. It's the town of Branford's money. And we have a fiduciary responsibility on this body to make sure that these departments have the resources to perform their jobs properly. And there's a lot of concerns out there right now with the fact that we're spending money on consultants, and we've had to bring in the former tax collector to help you and your department keep things going. That's a concern. And I'm a business owner. And if I had someone running a department and after 3-4 years, they were not performing, and I don't care if there was a changeover, I would be concerned with that supervisor and or that manager. So I'll leave it at that. And thank you for, again, coming tonight and providing us with your information, with your comments. Thank you.
Mr. Moderator, I'd like to comment, if I could.
Representative Everson, go ahead.
Thank you. This is Representative Everson. I would just like to thank Bobby and her staff and the first selectman and the finance director and the assistant finance director who all spoke in favor of this expenditure. I don't think that we micromanage the fire department over time. I don't think we micromanage the police department over time. And we're micromanaging a tax collector department. This department brings in the revenue for this town. The playbook walked out the door when the last tax collector left. And then the assistant tax collector retired and took a job as the tax collector in the town of East Haven. Now, where does that leave someone who's newly elected to the job of tax collector, elected by the residents of this town to take that job, and then has to spend 3 years getting certified? That's the job. And she has done the best that she can do. I'm not in that tax department every day. I have to take Bobby at her word. But I know Bobby, and she's a good person. And she is doing good things for this town. And whether or not you agree with spending $21,000, my God, think about it. None of this was brought up during our committee meetings, the joint committee meeting with administrative services and the Ways and Means. In my estimation, the tax collector was sandbagged on this meeting. And I don't think that's fair to do to anyone in this town without some kind of a heads up and all this information that's coming out and calling it failing department. I can't describe what's happening in the tax department because I'm not there. So what are we doing? What are you doing? This is a town department that brings in the tax dollars and the money. We have to support them in whatever they need. If the fire department comes in here and needs more money for overtime for COVID response, are you going to micromanage that? Come on. Honestly, thank you.
Mr. Moderator, this is Representative Riccio. May I speak, please?
All right, let's start limiting this debate now. I think everybody's had a fair amount of time. Go ahead, one last time for you, Mr. Riccio.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Through you, Mr. Moderator, to Representative Everson. Representative Everson, did I hear you say we've provided $20,000 to help the tax department? Is that what you're saying?
No, that was just one of the numbers, Representative.
Oh, just one of the numbers. Well, let's tell the people.
Representative Riccio.
I have the floor, please.
Start.
Let's tell the people in the town of Branford how much we've spent on the tax collectors department. I want everyone to listen very carefully. $150,000. That's quite. And when hold on, I still have the floor. Representative Everson, I still have the floor. Representative Everson, I would think that's a lot of support that we're providing the tax department. So don't sit there, please, and tell us or the town or whoever that we're not supporting the tax department. Thank you.
Mr. Moderator, may I please?
Representative Brockett.
Just one last comment. I'm going to have the tax collector speak briefly, tax collector.
Yes, I thank you. Two things. One, Representative Everson, I just thank you.
Go ahead.
Second, Representative Riccio, I did not apply for this. They came to me and asked me to run. And speaking with the former tax collector, she said, I believe you can do it, Bobby. You get trained. You get certified, you will learn it. It's a steep learning curve, but you will learn it. So I didn't apply. And second, as far as what the consultant costs are, I'm not the one that decides what the consultants make an hour. All I know is my department needs help. What it costs doesn't have anything to do with me. So once I get it, I utilize it responsibly. What it costs doesn't have anything to do with me. We need help. Now, either you can give it to us, and we can do our best to do better, because we will be better when things get solidified, or you cannot give it to us and I don't know what's going to happen. I'm done. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Tax Collector Brooks. Representative Flanagan.
Chairman Flanagan, may I make a point?
Representative Sires.
One last point. Yes, Representative Moderator Flanagan, to whoever, Bobby or whoever wants to listen. The head of every department is the chief operating officer and the chief financial officer of that department. Every department, they should know what the associated costs for salary, payroll, expenditures, overtime, how much each person makes, what the department is spending. That's how you put together a budget. So you have to understand how much cost is to the taxpayer for asking for overtime and consultants. You can't not go on and not know what it is. That's why we're in the position we're in, is to be more aware of the department. And that's all I'm saying. I respect every department head, and I may be corrected, but I'm under the assumption that every department head is independently running their department, and I was hoping that they were, so they make the choices as to what they need in their departments to make sure the departments run smoothly, which is one of the issues I have, is who's running the department, because I would hope that the person who's the highest elected official of the department is running their department and has full run of that ship, and may ask others for help or for permission to hire. But the bottom line is the budget is made by that department head, and that department head should allocate the budget and the tasks. Thank you.
I'm going to speak up one more time. I know I'm not sure, but this has to be said. First of all, I work under the auspices of the finance department. So maybe I should know all of that. But if I weren't at the window and answering the phone and I could actually sit down and look at my admin work, I might actually know that answer. I'm too busy.
Okay, thank you, Tom Clerk Brooks. Last call. Anybody on the RTM?
Mr. Representative Brockett.
Go ahead, Representative Brockett.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. This is Representative Brockett. I just wanted to make the body aware of a couple of things that happened subsequent to the Ways and Means meeting and the Administrative Services meeting. As has been indicated, this allocation that we're voting on tonight was fully supported, in fact, generated by the first selectman, supported by the finance director, who's got long-term service in the town of Branford, supported by the human resources director, who recognized that somebody was terminated because they couldn't do the job recently and they had to hire somebody else. And subsequent to our meeting, we should have all received an email that indicated that one of the early consultants recognized that the department was so busy that it should have a minimum of 3 full-time personnel plus the tax collector. So I just wanted to make the body aware of that, and I'm fully in support of this motion. I think the tax department does an outstanding job. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Representative Flanagan. Thank you, Representative Brockett. Let's move on to this now. Comments?
Mr. Moderator, this is Representative Black.
Representative Black, go ahead.
Yeah, just quickly, it's not just the 21,000. We're also funding the tax associate position. I do intend to support this. Just as an aside for Representative Everson, you'd been here longer, you'd know we do micromanage overtime, particularly public events in the police and fire, whether we should or not. We can disagree, but sometimes we do get down in the weeds. Again, I support this motion and intend to vote for it. Thank you.
Okay. Is there any discussion from members of the public? Hearing none.
Mr. Moderator, excuse me, this is Town Clerk Arpin. We have a hand up with Mr. Petrowski, Todd Petrowski.
Mr. Petrowski, you wish to speak to this?
Yes, thank you. And I've mentioned this past time with the tax department. I think this is something that should be reconsidered. Is there's a $90 fee when you pay by credit card to pay your taxes. Now, if that fee gets waived, maybe half the town pays by credit card, which automatically gets deposited into the town's bank account. And they don't, and then Mrs. Bobby Gill Brooks and the rest of the people don't have the burden of dealing with it because it's already put into the bank account. But the town seems to not want to waive that fee, and that's why they're tied up with money. And I mean, maybe that's something to look at. I mean, if I could write a check and not pay $90, or I could swipe my credit card and not pay $90, then me as a taxpayer, I get another month to not pay my taxes when the bill comes in. Maybe that would help the community, but we still have a $90 fee, which ties them up even more. But yeah, we want to pay overtime. We want to pay consultants. I mean, why are we paying consultant for somebody who's paid as a town employee? I mean, that just doesn't make any sense. I mean, but that's between you guys. You guys figure that out. And that's all I got to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Petrowski. Anyone else from the public that wishes to speak? All right, this sounds like this might require a roll call vote, so I'm going to ask for a roll call vote on this item. Yes vote is for the transfer. A no vote is you're against. The clerk will call the roll on this.
Okay. Representative Edelman.
Representative Edelman, enthusiastically yes.
Representative Atro.
Yes.
Say your name.
Representative Alphone.
Representative Alphone, yes.
Representative Anderson.
Representative Anderson, yes.
Representative Black.
Oops. Representative Black, yes.
Representative Brockett.
Representative Brockett, yes.
Representative Conklin.
Representative Conklin votes yes.
Representative Everson.
Representative Everson votes yes.
Representative Erlanger.
Representative Erlanger votes yes.
Representative Greenberg.
Representative Greenberg, yes.
Representative Haken.
Representative Haken, yes.
Representative Healy.
Representative Healy, yes.
Representative Henschel.
Representative Henschel, yes.
Representative Hines.
Representative Hines is yes.
Representative Ingraham.
Representative Ingraham, yes.
Representative Jackson.
Representative Jackson, yes.
Representative Leach is a yes. Representative Preet.
Representative Preet votes yes.
Representative Riccio.
You are unmuted.
Representative Riccio, reluctantly, yes.
Representative Stember.
Representative Stember votes yes.
Representative Shrestha.
Representative Shrestha votes yes.
Representative Sires,
Representative Sires, no.
Representative Sumro,
Representative Somro, yes.
Representative Stepanik,
Representative Stepanik, no.
Representative Sullivan,
This is Representative Sullivan voting yes.
Representative Torelli,
Representative Torelli votes yes.
Representative Toohill,
Yes, Representative Toohill votes yes.
Representative Durham,
Representative Verderam votes yes.
and Representative Wells.
Representative Wells votes yes.
Okay, we have 27 yes votes and 2 no.
Okay, the transfer passes. Okay, moving on to item 11. Any other business come before the RTM?
Moderator, this is Representative Brockett. I have a question.
Yes, go ahead, Representative Brockett.
Yeah, Mr. Moderator, through you, Representative Brockett, to the first selectman, if he's on the call, which I believe he still is. I was inquiring as to whether or not the first selectman is aware of the snow removal problem on the sidewalks on the east side of Route 142 between Standard Avenue and Maple Street. And if so, what has been or what can be done about it? Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Selectman Cosgrove, this is Representative Flanagan. You want to address that issue?
Yes, I will. I am aware of several areas there. The sidewalks have not been cleaned. Public Works is in the midst of notifying the abutting property owners per our ordinance. It is the responsibility of the abutting property owners to remove the sidewalk, the snow from the sidewalk. So we do notify them. There are some areas that we do maintain. So I'll look at this specific area and get it resolved, Representative Brockett. But I would just like, while it is, just remind everybody that it is under the town ordinance, the responsibility of the budding property owner to remove snow from the sidewalk after a storm event. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. First Selectman, and I'll fire an email off just as a reminder for the exact location. Thank you.
Hey, Representative Flanagan here. I understand there is a Mr. Greg Jeroman that would like to address the RTM. Are you there? Representative Jeroman?
Sorry, he's not a representative.
Well,
you're muted, sir.
You're muted. I can't see him. Mr.
Great.
Jeroman?
Can you hear me now?
Mr. Jeroman, you're on? Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. You can hear me great. Thank you. And ladies and gentlemen, I wanted to kind of piggyback on what Mr. Riccio was speaking about at last month's meeting pertaining to the Board of Ed and the district and the upcoming budget. And by the way, for those that may not be aware, the meeting that was going on simultaneous to this, the ask is 2.15%. And I guess that's on top of monies that are owed, that are coming to the district and coming to the town, presumably, from the state of Connecticut. My concern, I've been, for those that don't know, I've been following the Board of Ed and the district and the meetings and all of that for 4 years. I've put a lot of effort into it because something needs to be done. There is a problem and it needs to be solved. And, to kind of piggyback on what Mr. Riccio was talking about last meeting, many things that, you want to be staying the same or going down or going up. Salary, budget costs, administrative costs, turnover within the district, people leaving for lateral moves, including administrators, Branford parents willing to spend more money to send their kids elsewhere, superintendents prevaricating to the RTM, the inability of the BOE to do their job, lack of ethical action by the BOE, most notably the recent unethical, some call it unethical, some call it unsavory, some call it crooked election engineered by the present chair. And, one only needs to look at the turnover on the Board of Ed to figure out what does the Board of Ed think of the Board of Ed. And when one looks at the roster, contained within last year's budget, 5 out of 9 Board of Ed members are not there anymore. The turnover rate, therefore, 5 out of 9 is 55%. So many things that should be staying the same are going down or going up. Going down is enrollment, test scores, school standing, trust and transparency, parents and people coming to Board of Ed meetings, superintendent credibility. The lack of, honestly, people moving to Branford to send their kids here. The Branford school reputation. We are right in the middle, mired in mediocrity. And that's a dangerous place to be because it's not bad enough oftentimes to necessitate attention, but it's not so great that it's something, to be proud of. And honestly, the respect from the superintendent toward even this RTM is appalling. Last month at the RTM meeting, at the RTM education meeting, I believe Ms. Anderson asked the question about turnover. The answer by the superintendent was yes, occasionally there is a little bit of turnover. Somebody leaves to take a step upward. But at the same time, the facts show a different picture. The gamesmanship that was done by the superintendent of last year's budget, it seemed like a game of 3-card Monte. This isn't, this is somebody in a leadership position that requires great scrutiny. His actions show that he doesn't respect. I believe Ms. Sember had sent, a while back, had sent a note to the superintendent about a bullying incident. My understanding is that for several months, she got no response. So when we're talking about, with all due respect to everybody, and we all want to think that we have a good district. We all don't want problems. We all want to feel good about things. But at the same time, there's a problem that is continuing. Now, on a more specific nature with regard to the budget, and I'm mindful of the fact that you all control the budget, and the idea of the conduct of the Board of Ed, the conduct and performance of district leadership is not within your purview. I get that. Let's look at a couple of quick things on the budget. Line item expenses. Why is it that the district and the Board of Ed are one of the only departments that don't have line item expenses listed? They talk about transparency and communication in great detail. They don't practice it. Folks don't mean what they say, they mean what they do. Technology encompasses 1.7% of about a $60 million budget. That's about $1.2 million. I was a former user of their technology. My son graduated in 2018. The technology is lacking. The meetings there, they don't even have Zoom. They have constant problems. And yet they're the only department, I'm told, the only department except for finance, which has a small IT department, that have their own IT department. Then they don't use the town. Why is $1.2 million being spent for apparently trailing edge technology. Legal fees, they frequently use legal fees. I mean, the money that is being spent left, right, and sideways is unbelievable. But guess what? I want to give you all some good news. I currently have 3 cases involving FOIA violations, okay, that are being heard by the FOIA Commission. That's not good news. That's an embarrassment. But I will tell you, the legal firm that is representing them, they're right on it. So for our $400 to $500 an hour, I would like to personally assure everybody that their legal people are doing a great job. And at the same time, this is also a legal firm, Shipman and Goodwin, that has also sued the town in other parts of it. Administrative salaries are going up and up. Transparency going down. Superintendent salary, okay, it's a package of about $300,000. The man has no PhD. The man said, and it was even written, that he was pursuing and going to get his PhD. That was 11 years ago. Now, the upcoming budget, they want 2.15%, plus, God knows what. You know, at a given point, we need to kind of step outside the box here. We're dealing with a situation that is outside the paradigm. It's time to think outside the paradigm. What you control is the budget. You can't control, after you give them that money, how they spend it. And they have historically a great track record of extending the superintendent, spending on legal fees, giving raises to superintendents, okay, that
Excuse
are...
me, Mr. Jeroman, this is Town Clerk Arpin, so we have to limit your time frame, so just try to wrap it up.
I will wrap up, yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
As we're bringing our budget, as we're bringing our district down, okay, it's great if we were doing this, if our district was up. I would like to respectfully recommend that for the upcoming budget, the increase is 0. Okay, 0. And I would like to recommend that number be used, because we cannot continue to fund more and more for inefficiencies. We cannot, this body cannot make organizational changes or recommendation. The only language that it can speak is how much money is being given. And what I'd like to respectfully conclude with, and thank you, Ms. Arpin, for the prompt and the call out, okay? I'd like to respectfully suggest that we speak the language that has been afforded us, because if we continue to do things the same old way and get the same results, if I'm not mistaken, that's Einstein's theory of insanity. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you, and I'm sorry for being so verbose.
Representative Flanagan here, Representative Roman, I would suggest too that you attend the Education Committee, which is going to oversee the budget, and your concerns that you mentioned before about the superintendent and other issues, go to the Board of Education meeting also. All right, is there anyone?
I got
Mr. Moderator.
Mr. Moderator?
Yes.
Mr. Moderator, this is Representative Preet.
Preet, go right ahead, Representative.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. This is Representative Preet. Listen, I appreciate Mr. Droman's comments and his concerns. It's just one couple of things I just want to touch base on. As far as the line item expenses, that's a state statute. We have no control over that. So if you, along with a number of people, have approached me on that, and I'll tell you the same as I told the others, if you want that changed, you need to go to your state reps and your state senator. That's a state statute. And the other thing I want to remind you, as the moderator just did, this initial, I guess, presentation that was done tonight by the superintendent, that's his initial ask. So that needs to go before the Board of Finance. It needs to go through the Education Subcommittee, and then it needs to go to the full RTM. So there's ample opportunities for that initial ask to be reduced. And I also would suggest that you attend those meetings and voice your concerns. Thank you.
Any other business to come before? Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, I have something, Mr. Moderator.
Representative
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I would like to request the RTM give a moment of silence to recognize the passing of Robert Abels. He was a great RTM representative for many years from the 3rd District down in Short Beach. Robert Abels, please give us a moment of silence.
Representative Flanagan here, can we have a moment of silence? Okay, Representative Flanagan, any other business to come before the RTM?
Mr. Moderator.
I got one, please.
Representative.
State your name. This is Town Clerk Arpin.
Richard Atro, Representative Atro.
Richard,
one thing I'd like to mention.
Yeah. Representative Flanagan, I just recognized Representative Sullivan before you. Representative Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I just wanted to take this opportunity to speak a little bit about the resolution that was not added to the agenda. I'm really disappointed in my Republican colleagues for not adding it to the agenda. I feel that the resolution addresses a recent incident in a very timely manner, and that we weren't able to place it on our January agenda due to it being a special session of the RTM. And so right now, I would ask you, Mr. Roderick, to put it on our agenda for the March meeting. And next, I'm going to just speak a little bit in support of that resolution. We as members of the RTM are all elected leaders of the town of Branford. As these leaders, it is our duty to stand against tyranny and to uphold and protect our Constitution. On January 6th, our nation and its electoral process, the very core of our democracy, the peaceful transfer of power, was attacked by insurrectionists that were encouraged by then President of the United States, Mr. Trump. Tonight, we could have acted to condemn these acts of violence, treason, and insurrection. These insurrectionists were attempting to overthrow and overturn the results of a free and fair election in our nation. What do you think stop the steal means? There is no evidence that the election experienced widespread fraud and that it was stolen, as Mr. Trump encouraged his supporters on January 6th. If these efforts to overturn our electoral process don't bother you as an elected government official, you're in the wrong line of work. If you as an elected government official can watch the videos that have been cataloged by ProPublica of the participants of this attempted coup taken with their own cell phones and not be outraged and disturbed to your core, you're in the wrong line of work. Tonight, we could have taken action to condemn these insurrectionists of January 6th. We can stand up to those in our nation who most want to tear our government down, silence the voices of tens of millions of American voters, and use violence to attempt to overturn a free electoral process. If you as an elected government official can't stand up against these bad actors, you're in the wrong line of work. During the insurrection of January 6th, items in our capital were destroyed, stolen, and vandalized by insurrectionists. The Confederate flag was joyfully paraded down the halls of our capital. Multiple groups supporting white supremacy proudly showed their symbols, flags, and badges. It's very easy for me to not want to be allied on the same side with these characters, and I ask that my colleagues support this item, this resolution on our March agenda as it was read by Representative Brockett in tonight's meeting. Thank you.
Representative Flanagan here to Representative Sullivan. Representative Sullivan, the motion to add this to the agenda was defeated, so therefore it's done.
Mr. Moderator, this is Representative Shrestha. Can I speak? Maybe this is Representative Shrestha.
Go ahead and speak.
Yeah, I need some 4 minutes, at least 4 minutes. I have some sentiment about this, so I would like to speak a little bit. Can I?
Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm so honored to be here with you to share this platform, with you to work towards accomplishing common goals of ours, that is to serve our beautiful town of Branford. A few months ago, I, the first generation immigrant from a small country, Nepal, would not have imagined that I would be sitting alongside with you. It was only possible. USA is such a great welcoming country, as well as our fellow Americans are such a great, warm people. This great nation has represented democratic system and egalitarian values. The recent violent storming of the US Capitol on January 6th, incited with an intent to interfere peaceful transition of power, is deeply saddened me. And somehow at the moment, it took my faith and belief. 6 or 7, I'm not sure the count, 6 or 7 precious lives were lost. Among many things damaged was faith of people. So was the reputation of our American values, which will probably take a long time to repair. Such action that undermines democratic values, should they come from those they call themselves Democrat or Republicans or any, should be strongly condemned and people should be held accountable. Such an act of insurrection neither resonates Republican nor Democratic values. Those insurrectionists do not belong to any party. They do not represent American values. Turning a blind eye to such action rather than rectifying them means ignoring problem in society, would lead deeper irreparable chasm among us. We must be courageous to say right is right, wrong is wrong. Sometimes we need to be able to use our vote of consent for the betterment of the society. That's all my sentiment. Thank you for your time, Mr. Moderator. So I would request everybody.
I can hear Representative
Mr. Moderator, this is Representative Conklin.
Representative Conklin, just hold on a second. Representative Atro was before you.
Thank you.
Two things. The first thing, the public requesting the $90 fee for paying their taxes. And Bobby, maybe you could address this as our tax collector. It's my understanding that they could pay for $1 if they have a direct withdrawal out of their bank account. And I believe it's on your webpage. I'm not sure, but I believe it might be on your webpage. So this is the second time I've seen this come up at an RTM meeting, and nobody has told them that this is the case. So I'm not sure if that person's still at the meeting, but maybe you could, I'm sure you're aware of it, Bobby, as the tax collector, that they can do it another way other than charging on a charge card. The second item I have is regarding putting that item on the agenda. And I do not support putting the resolution on the agenda. I do support the statement in the resolution and what it said, and however that item should be addressed. But this is not the body that should be addressed. There are many issues going on across this country and in Washington. It's not up to us to address them at our meetings. Every time there's something bad going on and put on TV, and you can see bad things every day that you say, we should bring that up there and condemn it on our RTM meeting. Our agenda should be limited to just items that affect Branford, not national items or political issues. We shouldn't set a precedence with this. If we've done it in the past, shame on us. We should do it again. My feeling, anything that's not something that affects the citizens of Branford that we have control over should not go on our agenda. Because what happens, we get in, and it's going to get into funny season in another couple of months, and we're going to be playing politics, trying to bring politics onto this. No doubt about it. What happened there was horrible, absolutely horrible. Horrible. But it's not something we can do anything about it here. We can't legislate it. We can't send people there to do something about it. We can't do anything. It's in hands other than ours. This meeting should be for things that we control for Branford. And if we want to spend half the meeting talking about things that we can't control, then you're going to really have a problem getting things done in Branford. That's all I got to say.
Flanagan here, Representative Conklin.
Yes, I'm sorry to take more of your evening because I'd like to be heading off. I have an early day, but I wanted to speak to Ram, I'm sorry, it's Ram, not Ram, and to Chris. And I'm not sure how many veterans are on the RTM, but I have sworn to uphold the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, for over 50 years. And I've done it multiple times. And I agree with Rich in that what happened in early January was totally appalling. I overreact to many things. My first inclination was to strap on a weapon and go to Washington and once again protect the Constitution of the United States. In the early 70s, I was protecting a naval base when citizens of the United States were demonstrating. It wasn't rioting. It was demonstrating that could have turned into a riot. But I don't believe, again, it was absolutely appalling. But as Rich points out, it's not something this RTM should be discussing. Thank you for your time.
Representative Ingraham.
Mr. Moderator, this is Representative Riccio. I'd like to make a comment, please.
All right.
We've had our hands up.
Mr. Riccio, go ahead.
Can I go ahead?
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. My comment is, where were you, Mr. Representative Sullivan and Representative Ram and all you other Democrats in June, July, August?
Representative Riccio.
When $1 billion to $2 billion of damages occurred in Minnesota, Portland, Washington. 2,037 officers were injured, and there were at least 30 deaths. Where were you guys this past summer?
Representative Riccio.
And I just want to ask that question. Why didn't you?
Representative Riccio, I've already told you, you're out of order in your comments, okay? Is there any other business to come before the RTM? If not.
Hi, Dennis. Dennis.
This is Representative Ingraham.
Dennis. Oh.
Who's this?
I have my hand up. Nancy.
Nancy Petrowski wants to speak on other business. Go ahead, Nancy.
Hi. A few things. It's disappointing to have to listen to this, and I agree with Rich Pro. It does not belong on this meeting platform. Number two, in response to the charge for paying taxes, I encountered that last year, and I left a message. I've already forgot her name, the tax collector. And she called me back the next day, and she's the one who told me you can pay by check. It's 95 cents. And they did not take it off the website. But now I believe that is on the website, and the Branford website, and it lets you know that you can pay by right out of your checkbook for 95 cents. So they did make that addition, I believe. And the third thing is, did they ever, and I should have brought this up before, can they, I don't even know if they can, but can they get volunteers to help, like senior citizens or people who retired early, or high school students who are taking business courses and not dealing with money, but to open the mail like in the tax office? Because again, last year I called 3 weeks after I mailed in my check, and they said, oh, we're still opening the mail from 2 weeks ago. Well, a monkey can open the mail. So get a volunteer in there and do and even be at the window and just take messages. And then they can call so many hours during the day. They can go back and they can make calls. That's just the suggestion. And the last thing is, where I worked, we had overtime at the end of month, end of quarter, end of year. Other than that, there was no overtime. So you had to get your work done during those work hours. There was no way around it. So that's it. And again, I don't appreciate being preached to about Trump or what happened at the Capitol and all that. So thank you.
Mr. Moderator, I'd like to reply to Mr. Preet, please.
No.
What?
I'm sorry. What?
I'd like to reply to Mr. Preet, who spoke about what I had stated.
This is Town Clerk Arpin who is speaking, please.
I'm sorry, Ms. Arpin. Greg Geraldman speaking.
All right. Is this going to be brief?
It will be brief, Mr. Moderator.
Last time. Okay. Representative,
Thank you.
go ahead.
Thank you. Mr. Preet, I mean, first of all, I'd just like to say we seem to have enough to do on a local basis without looking nationally for challenges that are outside of our control. I think that's pretty easy to see. With regard to Mr. Preet, thank you for inviting me to the meetings. I have been to more meetings than anyone over the last 4 years, including yourself. I'm simply suggesting in so many words and in deference to being brief, the superintendent is playing chess. We're playing checkers. It's time to change that. And Mr. Preet, I think your committee, that would be a great place to start, as would the overall RTM. And with that in mind, I bring that to I bring that to greater visibility. Thank you for your time. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Okay, thank you. Representative Flanagan, thank you.
Mr. Moderator, we have one more hand up. Todd Petrowski.
Now who? Okay. Todd Petrowski, go ahead. Mr. Petrowski?
Yep, I have to unmute. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I just have a couple things to say about that, and this may take a minute or two. The first thing I have an issue with, and I'm sure a lot of citizens have an issue with, is how did all of a sudden we get censored by Mr. Ingraham? That just happened to come on. There was no vote taken where he could just mute citizens. And particularly tonight, Wayne Cook got thrown out of a meeting. Now, I didn't see any meeting of the Democrats or the Republicans say that this was okay. So how did this become a thing? Maybe somebody could answer that. Maybe Mr. Ingraham could answer that.
This is Clerk Arpin. I would like to cite section 1-232.
Okay.
Okay. Conduct of meetings. In the event that any meeting of a public agency is interrupted by any person or group of persons so as to render the orderly conduct of such meeting unfeasible, and order not be restored by the removal of individuals who are willfully
I totally understand your point.
So
Totally
I don't think I need to finish reading that. Excuse me, let me finish. I don't think I need to finish reading that, but when someone's platform is to willfully interrupt the decorum of the meeting, that statute has jurisdiction over that, as does the town meeting rules. Thank you.
Okay, well, let me ask you this question, if I may, Town Clerk. When Mr. Cook replies to Mr. Ingraham as being dishonest, when there's an article in a newspaper that Mr. Ingraham forged signatures, would you say that's an honest behavior? He admitted to forging signatures. It doesn't get much more dishonest than that.
You're bringing up a situation that's irrelevant to the agenda of tonight's meeting. So,
do you think that's relevant?
You can actually mute you with
do you think that's honest?
Well, for here, Representative Flanagan, Mr. Petrowski, I think.
Okay, so let's move forward. Let's let that die. Let's move forward. As far as the muting citizens, every single one of you guys, all 30 of you, took a vow or an oath to uphold the United States Constitution. Am I correct on that? And so far, it's been violated by all of you. Mr. Ingraham, exceptionally, because he's the one pushing the mute button, and nobody else is saying anything about it. So all of you, except for the two new people are responsible because you're not saying nothing about it. You're letting this violation happen. You took an oath and you're violating the oath. That's a First Amendment right. So who's got something to say about that? I'd love to hear it because I got 5 more items I'd like to go through. So who on the Democratic Party or the Republican Party has something to say that Ray Ingraham is muting people illegally and violating their First Amendment right? I'd like to know who has something to say about that. Because if you don't say anything, you're all guilty of it. So, come on, somebody give me an answer.
Mr. Moderator, can I make a statement?
Make a statement. I would love to hear from you, Mr. Riccio. Make a statement.
Representative Black, go ahead.
This Representative Black too, Todd. The First Amendment does not give persons the right to speak on whatever they want at a town meeting. There's no First Amendment right to just speak at any agency meeting. The right that is there is to speak to the issue at hand and subject to the rules that the RTM adopts. That's in our charter, but the Constitution and the First Amendment don't give you any right to speak at town meetings. Thank you.
Okay, so let me ask you this question, Mr. Black.
This is Town Clerk Arpin. Excuse me, Todd. I would like to 1-232 that states only matters appearing on the agenda may be considered in such a session. And
okay,
I'll
so I
just
guess
leave
we
it at
won't
that.
talk about your DWI conviction. Okay, no problem.
Mr. Moderator, this is Representative Riccio. I'd like to make a motion to end the meeting.
Interrupt again.
Will anyone second it, please?
Second.
Interrupt again.
Motion on the floor.
Interrupt again, because that's what you did. And that's what you did in December, and that's what you did in January. No citizen has interrupted the meeting except for you.
Can you please...
you didn't like what you heard. Oh, well. Suck it up, Buttercup. You didn't like it.
Did I get a second on that, Mr. Moderator?
Yes. You did it.
I
Yes,
second.
Representative Black seconded. I seconded that motion. It's a non-debatable motion.
Okay, so let me ask you this question.
Let me
ask you this question.
Motion on
So
the
how is it
debatable, Mr. Petrowski? A motion has been made on the floor to adjourn. Unfortunately, it's not debatable. All those in
You know what that is? I'm sorry.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
No. Thank you, everybody. Have a good evening.
I didn't catch who made the motion or seconded it.
I made the motion, Representative Riccio.
Thank you.
Representative.
Thank you. Riccio and Black, thank you.
This program was brought to you in part through the support of the Town of Branford. Watch town meetings and other videos on demand at BranfordTV.org.